How are
Can you hear
you?
me?
Yes,
I'm good.
yes.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you. I can hear you very clearly. How are
I'm
you
I'm so
feeling?
sorry. I'm fine, but I'm so sorry about the last time the internet just suddenly snapped.
That's okay. That's fine. No
I hope it
problem.
stays stable today and we can complete our session.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I hope you had a good holiday, good stay wherever. You had a good time.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you.
Excellent.
Restart?
Absolutely. I'm ready.
Great. So, to all our viewers who have joined us today, I'd like to share a thought before we begin. This thought came to me while I was reading some of the websites online that narrated Karhun's story to me. I realized that in the blink of an eye, your life can suddenly change because of a sickness or a disease. I realized that all your goals, priorities, dreams, everything takes different turns. You become grateful towards the little things in life, and you probably tend to think less about the big things in life. You probably want to leave behind the drama of yesterday's and the history of yesterday, and just focus on how you can use today's energy. I felt that life can suddenly come to a point where all your perspective can suddenly change. Karan Nanda's story to me is a fraction of this very thought, but it's one of unstoppable hope and persistence. We at YI Kolkata look forward to chatting with you today, Karan. Welcome. Welcome to the session.
Thank you, Kanupriya. Thank you for having me. And wow, yeah,
Pleasure totally.
thank you for the introduction. It's really nice. Thank you.
So, Karan, tell us a little about yourself before we start chatting about about what exactly happened.
Okay, so Kanupriya, I run a small software business at the moment. I like to call myself a
Oh,
senior entrepreneur. I'm on my third startup, and I do this as a passion. I'm an engineer by qualification. I'm an entrepreneur by thought. I'm a sportsman by passion, by heart, and now I play golf for India in the. I represent India in golf.
wow, that's awesome. So, Karan, this happened in 2015, 6 years ago, right?
Yes.
What exactly happened?
So I used to be a soccer player at that point in time, and uh, this happened while I was playing a soccer match. We were in a tournament, and in the middle of the soccer match, I felt like an acidity pain. I had no symptoms of a heart attack, and I thought it was, one of those regular acid refluxes that one keeps having at this age. And I kept playing, and much later, I went home and I realized. I mean, we realized once we had reached the hospital. A lot of things happened in the middle. I went home, told my wife, today it's really bad, my acidity. Let me take a pill. I took an
Yeah.
antacid, and about 30 minutes after that, I collapsed with a severe pain in my solar plexus, which is in the stomach. Because
Okay.
I was in so much pain, my wife said, "Why don't we just, because we don't know what it is, why don't we just go to the hospital?" So, in fact, I live 2 blocks away from Max Hospital. So, two
Yeah.
houses away from Max Hospital is my house. So, if we knew we were having a heart attack, in fact, we could have walked to Max Hospital to really figure it out. But because we did not know, we
Yeah.
put the kids in the car. We took the kids to Nani house, dropped the kids to the grandmother, and then started driving to a nursing home which belonged to the family.
Yeah.
By the time I reached the nursing home, the moment I entered the nursing home, I flatlined, so I collapsed. That's when they realized, or everybody realized, that I was actually having a heart attack.
Okay.
Luckily, because I flatlined inside the hospital, they were able to revive me.
Right.
This is a typical disease which a lot of fit young people have. Uh, but they were able to revive me, luckily, because within the 4 or 5 minute window, they got me back. So this is the beginning of the story. of what happened.
Yeah, because I remember reading they call it the sudden cardiac death. So it was labeled as something like an idiopathic condition to have.
Yes.
Did that suddenly happen, or was that after the
Yes.
attack?
Like I said, it's a typical. It's a term I also learned after I had had the heart attack, which is called sudden cardiac death. It's
Okay.
typical. I would not call myself middle aged, but yeah, that's the bracket we are in. A young person who's very active in sports. So I've heard a lot of stories about somebody running the marathon and suddenly collapsing, somebody in the gym suddenly collapsing and passing away.
Yeah.
These are typical symptoms of sudden cardiac death, and it's called sudden cardiac death because it
Yeah.
happens so quickly that you're not able to reach the hospital in time. The heart you can revive even after 4 hours, but a 5-6 minute window, if there is no oxygen to the brain, then there is no point reviving the patient.
Mhm.
And in 9 out of 10 cases, this is idiopathic, which means the doctors they do not have an answer to why this has happened. So this happened to me. My
That
file says it.
unexplained.
Yes, they cannot explain it. They know exactly what happened. So there was a
Yeah.
blood clot in the aorta, which went and blocked the aorta,
Okay.
and because the aorta is the gateway to all the arteries,
Right.
so there was no oxygen in the heart. Now, because it's a young heart, it starts beating really, really fast, and it can go up to above 300, 350 beats an hour, beats a minute. Whereas normal is you and me are set between 65 to 85. It goes up to
Yeah.
350, and then it just dies. It just
Okay.
collapses. So this is a typical case of a sudden cardiac death. And it's idiopathic in most cases. Mine was idiopathic as well. We don't know where the blood clot came in, why the blood clot came in. I did not have high cholesterol. I was not a drinker or a smoker unless So socially, I was drinking, which is not considered drinking. So
Yeah.
I did not have any family history. So therefore, they said we cannot identify why you had this. So it's idiopathic.
But it must have been very shocking and overwhelming to, I mean, idiopathic means something, it can't be traced back to a reason, so to say. So it must have been very shocking and overwhelming for you at that time. How did it feel?
Yes. So I I really it was more impactful or more traumatic to the family because I went into so when I reached so from there I'll then tell you the story because it was a serious case. That nursing home, which was also Fortis, but it was much smaller, they were not equipped to handle this. So I was sent to escorts, and once I went
Yeah.
to escorts, uh, after the surgery, I was I went into a coma, right?
Okay.
So I was in a coma for about 4 or 5 days, and then I woke up, and then the case was explained to me. But before that, the family had no idea. I had I had two very small children. They were still young, but they were younger then. My daughter was 9, and my son was 11.
Okay.
And my son incidentally somehow figured out that I had a heart attack. My daughter was oblivious. She was with 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 my sister-in-law. So
Right.
I mean, yes, for my parents, I'm a single child. So my father really had a really tough time
Yeah.
trying to figure out why this has happened or how this has happened, and now that it has happened, how do we move forward? So it's very traumatic to the family.
Can you hear me, Karan? I think I lost you there.
I can. Is it my internet or I think
I
I have
I
to
think
check.
it I
I
think
think
it's
it's
yours.
going and coming. Could you
Yeah.
could you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. Just the last bit I missed.
So yeah, so I was I was telling you, for the family, especially my immediate family, my wife, my kids, and my father,
Right.
being a single child, he was
Mm.
he was really under stress. Both my parents were really stressed.
Can only imagine. But what happened next, Karan? So when did you decide to go to Chennai for a transplant? What was the next step?
So yeah, so what happened was, uh, you know, I was kept in hospital for a while. And can you hear me, Kanupriya? Or am
Yeah,
I in
yeah,
and out?
I can.
Is it clear now?
Uh, Now it's fine. Yeah.
Just give me a.
Yeah, I keep getting this echo though every time I speak. I'll just add him again.
Hi, this should be better.
Yeah.
So what happened was my phone automatically connected to the 4G. That is
Okay.
why it was going in and out. This should be clearer. Sorry
Right.
for that.
That is always a pain, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So coming back to your question, so after the heart attack, they discharged me and they said, you'll have to accept the fact that you're a heart patient, but you can live a normal life. Of course, you need to stop playing your games. High
Mm.
brisk walking is the maximum amount of cardio that you can do, and you have to resign to that. And I was okay, but this so. I had my heart attack episode in December 2015. January I was home. I mean, end of December I was home. January, February, March. Somehow, during my rehab and when I was trying to walk and get myself together into a good physical condition, it wasn't happening. Things
Yeah.
kept deteriorating. So 6 months after my heart attack, I was given another shocker of a news saying that I'm on stage 2 of sudden cardiac death, and I need a heart transplant or a heart replacement in 6 months. So
Okay.
that was another shocker, where one was trying to accept the fact that, okay, you've had an incident, you need to slow down, so on and so forth.
Right.
And then suddenly the doctors told my wife that if he needs a transplant.
Yeah.
And frankly speaking, they didn't know how to break it to me. Coincidentally, what had happened was I had also been speaking to some of my friends in the US who were interventional cardiologists, and they had already, incidentally, a day earlier told me that
Told
I'm
you
an
about it.
ideal candidate for a heart transplant.
Okay.
So, because I'm young and all the other organs of my body were in perfect condition, only
Yeah.
my heart was at very low ejection fraction, which was about 10%, 12%. So they had already told me that. Now,
Okay.
when the doctors told me that you need a heart transplant in 6 months, there's some
Yeah.
construction which has started. Can you hear that sound?
Yeah, I
Let me
can. I
just
can.
change. Sorry. So
No
I'll keep
problem.
talking. So that was another shocker, and we had no
Right.
idea how to react to that. Of course, we decided to first inquire in the U.S. The U.S. We got a deadline of or a date of about 3 years, because the US is extremely rigid in terms of giving priority to their citizens first. So
Right.
3 years was too late. Then we
Yeah.
tried to figure out, the second option was Singapore,
to get a
Okay.
transplant in Singapore. Singapore, it was very close. They said between 6 to 8 months you may get a transplant, and
Okay.
the doctors here had only given me 6 months. The
Hmm.
alternate, they said that in case you do not get a heart, the alternate surgery temporary would be something called an LVAD, which is a left ventricular assist device, which is like basically a pump. But
Okay.
everybody told me that this pump is, and the operation is more complicated than a heart transplant because the battery of this pump would be external. So
Right.
basically, I'll have to keep a backpack on my back with the battery hanging and two tubes coming out. So that was even more complicated. So it was a shocker. And then finally, we met a doctor from Chennai who was
Okay.
in Delhi at that time.
Okay.
And therefore, we decided to go to Chennai.
Great. But so where do you think you got your strength from? Where did the family get their strength from? Because it was such a long wait,
So
and every other juncture you were just getting another, like another shocking piece of news that turned you around. How
I
did you
know,
guys save the
I know. So, of course, I derived my strength from the family.
Right.
Primarily my children, because I they were so young, and it was so unfair for me to have left them at such a young and tender age. In fact, for almost you know post the heart attack and post the transplant, even after a year, they would never allow me to drag a suitcase or pick up anything heavy, saying, Papa, no, no, no,
Right.
you please leave this. We will pick it up. My 11-year-old son is trying to pick up a heavy suitcase or roll it. It was very endearing. And
Of
of
course.
course, my wife, my parents, my mom and dad, my in-laws, I mean, they pretended nothing's wrong. So they treated me like a normal person that I was pre heart attack, which
Right.
really helped me because I didn't. If they were, if probably they'd sympathized or given me some pity, I would have probably, which I didn't need. So they treated me
Of
normally,
course.
and
Mm.
this is where I am today. It's just because of my family, and of course my
Hats off.
friends.
Of course, hats off to them. I mean, I can't imagine what they have gone through, especially when suddenly you start feeling that uncertainty is the only certainty around.
Yeah.
But amazing, yeah. But they say that you can't take you can take a sportsman, sorry, out of a field, but you can't take the sportsmanship outside of him, which is exactly you. And you appeared for the World Heart Transplant Games 2 years later. So, what did you
Yes.
participate in? And if I've got my information right, I think there were more things than one.
Yes. Yes. So my first love, first love is sports.
Absolutely.
And being a boarding school product, I had the privilege to really focus more on sports because from Scindia school I was allowed to play all the sports. Studies in public schools and boarding schools is not given such a major priority. So I had the privilege. I played all the sports in school. Of course, I was a soccer player. I was soccer captain, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But of course, excuse me. But of course, post the heart attack and post the transplant, I couldn't play high cardio impact or a contact sport. So one of my best friends, in fact, he was playing golf when the call went to him saying that I've had a heart attack and I'm in the ICU. So he left his
Mhm.
golf game and he came to meet. Of course, he couldn't meet me, but he was there. He met my wife. So when he actually did manage to meet me, he gave me two clubs of his, one driver and one putter. And he said, Karan, I know you will go mad if you don't play and you need something to play. And golf is something you can play till you're 90 or even longer if you can. And that was a great inspiration for me to actually recover post the transplant. So
Right.
for 6 months when I was bedridden, post the heart transplant, the first 1 year is extremely crucial, So for the first 6 months after I came back from my transplant, my room was completely isolated, sanitized, so on and so forth. So I was literally bedridden. So for 6 months, I'd kept my, so there is a seating area opposite my bed. So I'd kept my, like a sofa, on the sofa, I'd kept the driver and the putter like standing straight up. So every time I would open my eyes, I would look at the driver and the putter. Those are the two golf clubs. And my wife, after 2-3 months said, can I keep this in now? It's becoming an eyesore. So I said, there's no way you're keeping this inside. So that drove me, I believe I recovered faster than normal people do because of that urge to start playing again. So I think 8 months after my transplant, I was in the range.
Wow.
And a year later, I was selected. In 2 years, I represented the country. The main event, my main event was golf, but I also ran the 5 kilometer run.
Wow.
So this 5 kilometer run, and I prepared for it. I think I did very well. Unfortunately, I came last or third last or second last or in the last batch because, the other it was an open event. So the transplant game does not differentiate between a liver transplant, kidney transplant, or a heart transplant. Now, a kidney or a liver transplant, is in terms of a track and field or a cardio, is zero impact.
Yeah.
You can be a professional athlete. If you were previously a professional athlete, I know a footballer who was a pro footballer who is becoming a pro, and he's had a liver transplant. So there's no differentiation. There's no issue for him. But for a guy who's had a heart transplant, obviously, I cannot allow my heart rate to go above 150. So it was a struggle, but I completed it. Unfortunately, there's no statistic of the fastest time within for a heart transplant runner there. Otherwise, I think I could have got a medal. So
I'm
yes,
sure
I
your
ran.
story is becoming more and more inspiring, Karhun.
And I also participated in table tennis. Table tennis was an event which I played in school, and in the team we were one player short of making the whole team qualifying for the table tennis event. So I volunteered to play table tennis. Of course, I lost in the quarterfinals or something. But that was another event that I took. And I realized once you go there, you realize that, all the governments recognize this as a proper sports. Thank you. So this is actually affiliated to the Olympic Games. Okay.
Right.
Unfortunately, in India, we are not recognized. So we have to do our own funding, and there were some players who we had to group and help with the funding, so on and so forth. But once we got there, we realized entire contingent of the USA team were some 120 people, athletes, with some 30 physiotherapists and doctors, and in the track and field they had those foldable massage things, and before the event the physiotherapists were having a go at the athletes, and we were just so surprised. We were barefoot sitting in our shorts in one corner and looking at all these players getting their royal treatment. But it was a fantastic experience. Of course, next time. And then my point of this statement was that only after we went, we realized that this is actually a extremely focused and looked at very professionally. So you just can't get up and decide, okay, I want to play this game and let's go and play this game, because everybody else is very serious about playing this game like a proper sport. So in the next games, of course, I'm only going to concentrate on golf, which I am completely addicted to. Any golfer watching this will know what this means.
I'm sure my husband is watching and he's agreeing to what you're saying. But
Also.
you remind me of this notion that growth is painful, change is painful, but nothing is more painful than being stuck where you don't belong. And I think people sometimes just find it so hard to suddenly come out of a situation and even just start running on a parallel track. But I think you just did that and you did it so beautifully. I mean, kudos to you for that, really. I'm in total
Thank
awe
you.
of you.
Thank you. But I had, people say that to me. a lot of my friends, a lot of my football buddies, who my teammates who still play football, lucky enough to still play soccer, say, Karan, yaar, you're such an inspiration and all of that. But I actually turn around and tell them, dude, I had no choice. I have to
Yeah.
do this. There is no choice. I have to, for my kids, for myself, I have to do this. So,
Right.
and I'm telling you, my perspective has changed. Um, I don't get hassled anymore. For me, at this point in my life, just getting to be able to get out of my bed, my day is made. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If I can get out of my bed, there's nothing else which can go wrong with my day today. So this is how I
True.
look at life.
True.
It's completely changed.
Yeah. So, Karan, how is it now after the transplant? Is the normal life any different for you? Do you need to take any precautions,
Oh, of
or
course.
how is it
So,
now?
so uh, when we came back home, this was 2017. It
Yes.
was such a big deal that I could not get an infection in the first 1 year.
Okay.
Fortunately, this happened in 2016, 2017. If it had
Yes.
happened during the pandemic, it would have been a disaster.
I'm sure.
But yes, life. So statistically, the doctors have told me, this is not my saying, but the doctors had said that the first 1 year, your health of your heart and your body in the first 1 year post transplant,
Yeah.
especially for heart transplanted patient, decides the longevity of your transplant. Okay,
Okay.
so it's like any other disease, you have to manage this. Okay, this is how
Okay.
they explained it to me very beautifully. And
Okay.
acceptance also comes when when you're told that you have a disorder, but it is manageable. Now, how you
Right.
manage your disease is how well you can live your life, right?
Right.
So initially, for and still maybe now I take some liberty. I am not allowed to eat anything raw. Okay,
Okay.
especially in India.
Okay.
So now I take some liberty because it's been 4 years and I love salads. So my first, after my transplant, the first salad I had was or fruit we had was when we went to Europe.
Okay.
And, I just, for maybe 5 days, I just, you know, ate salads and, those tomatoes and the lettuce and all of that. So there are many restrictions. Of course, I take a little bit of liberty now because it's 4 years, and my every 3 months I get myself tested in terms of my cholesterol and my blood and all of that. So that's fine. So I started eating out now. For three
Yeah.
years, I did not eat out. I did not step out in terms of eating. I was not allowed to eat even fruits with. I was only allowed to eat fruits with thick skin. So I was
Okay.
not allowed to eat apples or guavas. I was told to have, bananas and so fruits with very, very limited fruits we had.
Understood. Yeah.
And, for 6 months or 1 year, anybody entering the house or entering my room where I was there had to sanitize. So, we had massive sanitizer disposals. They had to wear masks. They had to wear, take off their shoes and come in. It was very regimented. In fact, the doctors who were over precautious said, even forget about the RO, just boil your water and your spoons and your forks and your plate, your cutlery and crockery has to be boiled and sterilized
Sterilized.
and all of that. We don't do that anymore. Okay. In
Okay.
fact,
Okay.
my kids' exams have just finished yesterday, and today, because we can't go out because of the pandemic, we've actually
Right.
ordered Thai food from outside, which I'm looking forward to. So it's coming back to normal. I'm playing golf. I've been playing golf since last year, August, through the pandemic.
Okay.
So, it's a little bit, I mean, I don't recommend it because I have comorbidity because of the transplant and I'm on immunosuppressants. Uh,
Okay.
I think I've managed my disease very well. So therefore, the
Right.
doctors have given me the liberty. I think 8 months or 1 year after the transplant, they actually allowed me to travel overseas. We went to Spain. I had some work in
Right.
Spain, and I took my wife, and we
Mhm.
incidentally had a like a twosome holiday without the kids, maybe after 15
Okay.
years.
Okay.
So it's all about managing what I'm trying to tell you. So it's not the end of
Yeah.
life. I live an absolutely normal life now. I go
Yeah.
to office every day. I play golf every day. So I meet so many new people. Yeah,
I can't hear you, Karan.
don't. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a phone call in the middle. What I was trying to tell you, I am not exaggerating, but I'm 90 or 92% of my normal life or of what I was pre heart attack. Of course, I
That's
can't
amazing.
do heavy cardio exercises, but
Of
that's
course.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on golf. I gym 3 times a week. I play golf. Well, my wife doesn't like it so
Right.
much, but I can play golf 7 days a week. But I play 4 days a week. I go to the range. I go to office. I interact with people. Of course, I have to be very careful. But
Right.
it's how mentally positive you can be.
Right. Right.
It's your manifestation of what you want to be, fundamentally
Absolutely.
speaking.
Absolutely. So true. So, Karan, I also read about the dinner-weighted heart, if I've got it right. So, what is that, and how does that work, and how does that affect your life today?
Sorry. Can you repeat that? Sorry, Kanupriya. What?
I read about the dinner-weighted heart.
Denervated heart. Yes. So
Sorry,
this
I
was
pronounced it wrongly, I guess.
no. It's fine. So yes, and this is what was special to me in terms of running the 5K, because I think for me it was a very big deal. So what happens, Kanupriya, is that
Okay.
when they remove the heart, it's actually quite a simple operation. In fact, the cardiologist today will tell you that a heart transplant is simpler than an open heart surgery, because
Okay.
there are lesser things to do. So they basically
Okay.
open you up,
Yeah.
they cut out your heart, remove your heart, they put
Yeah.
the new heart, and they stitch up the arteries, and then you're good to go. That's the theoretical part of it. But what also happens in the middle, because the heart is extracted and a new one is put, there are no nerves, or there are very few nerves, or there are no nerves in the new heart. So the new heart does not, the brain and the heart are not connected even now. Okay, for
Okay.
me,
Okay.
I've of course conditioned it now so that my response is faster.
Right.
But coming back to initially, what happens is the heart, because the brain is not connected to the heart does not know whether the body is resting or it's running or it's
Okay.
working out. So if you've
Right.
noticed, or if you've noticed before, that your resting heart rate and your exercising heart rates are
Right.
very very different.
Very
A
different. Yeah.
normal a normal bandwidth is, let's say, 75 resting heart rate and
Right.
140 if you're running a long run, a marathon or something like that. Between 120 to 140, right?
Right.
Now the beauty about the human body is this: because my heart did not know whether I'm running or I'm lying down, it constantly start when it's so when I was in hospital post transplant, when I
Yeah.
was when I came back home, my resting heart rate was 115. Now
Okay.
you'll think that this is very high, but the human body is so beautiful that it's then after that the heart said, okay, then it doesn't matter whether you're running or you're sleeping, because I'll beat
Right.
at this, so that there is
Right.
enough blood supply and oxygen in your body, so that you don't faint, or my so when I'd started running and I'd started prepping for this,
Right.
uh, they had said, just be careful, don't if you're feeling dizzy or something, just stop. So I made
Okay.
sure that I was I prepared properly. Just 1 second, Priya.
Yeah.
बच्चे मेरा वो चल रहा है, आप बाहर जाओ. Sorry.
No problem at all. So, you
So,
spoke about managing the disease also, Karan.
hmm.
I mean, I had read somewhere that, if you have a heart transplant, then maybe after 10 years or so, you need to go in for another one. I mean, I hope
Yes.
that's not true. I mean, I hope that was a permanent solution to the problem.
Sorry. Yes. So statistically, when this was 4 years ago, and that is why the doctor said it is very important for the first 1 or 2 years for you to manage your disease.
Okay.
So the statistical average today is 10 years,
Okay.
but it's a statistical average. It's a mean. I
Okay.
know two, three guys who've been very healthy with 30-year-old transplants. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And I also know, on the other hand, another sportswoman who was with me for the transplanted games. She couldn't play
Mm.
because she had had her second heart transplant by the time she was 40. So she
Okay.
had her first heart transplant in her early 30s, but
Okay.
there were many rejections. Her name is Reena Raju. There were many
Mm.
rejection issues, and in 9 years she had to get another transplant.
Another one. Okay.
So statistical average was 10 years. Now they said, if you manage your disease properly, you can even go up to 20 years, 30 years. So after the first year, when we managed, it's also destiny. When we were able to manage my disease, I went back to Chennai for my first annual checkup.
Right.
Everybody was so happy. All the cardiologists, Dr. Bala, who did my transplant, he's a saint. He's God sent, I'm telling you. He patted me on the back and said, excellent. I guarantee that you have extended your transplant life by at least 50%, which meant
Awesome.
15 years, which is
Right.
such a phenomenal thing to hear, right? Because you're in this dump. Really, there have been very emotional ups and downs for me.
Absolutely.
In
Can
fact,
imagine.
you start googling stuff up, right? The moment you start googling stuff up, you go mad, because the long-term effects of immunosuppressants is autoimmune disease. So one article in Google said that even if you manage to live for 20 years without getting a heart attack, you may end up getting cancer because
God.
you're immunosuppressed. And so after that, when the doctors actually patted me on the back and they said, "Well done, Karan. Minimum, you have increased your lifespan by, your transplant lifespan by 50%, which is 15 years."
Wow.
It's fantastic. Also, Kanupriya, the new medicines which are coming in, the new technology which is coming in
Right.
is really fantastic. I mean, it's unbelievable. So the statistical average is also going up. Now I see a lot of articles which are saying, it's 12 to 15 years already for a
Right.
new for a heart transplant.
Yes.
So it's a statistical average.
Okay.
Again, I have a I have to manage it. And in case I have to
Right.
get another transplant, then I have to make sure that my body is fit enough to get another transplant. So
Right.
this is what I'm preparing for. I'm not giving up. I'll get another heart
That's
transplant if need be.
yeah, that's amazing.
Thank
But
you.
in your journey, was there a single moment where you felt that I wish this could have been done differently, or I wish I could change this, it would have been so much simpler? Was there anything when you felt that maybe this should have happened differently?
So, I can't say that if something would have happened differently, why would if because I am at a place where I am exactly where I want to be, right? So I
Right.
wouldn't
Right.
I wouldn't want anything to be different. But I will mention one thing that uh, just before 2, 3 months before the heart transplant,
Right.
my physical condition was so bad that I was on a 24/7 intravenous drip to keep my heart pumping.
Okay.
Getting in and out of flights was impossible. I had to be put on a wheelchair, and I had to be wheel. So between Chennai and Delhi, when I'm talking about when we were going back and forth and trying to make the transition to Chennai, where we had to
Yeah.
move for 3, 4 months. So we made a few trips to Chennai. And during
Right.
those trips, we had to get a wheelchair, and I was having major breathing issues. I getting out from the bed and walking to the loo, I was breathless. After taking a shower and wiping myself with a towel, I had to sit in the middle, get my breath back, and start
Right.
again. It was some such simple things were so difficult for me. So I actually one day I didn't break down, but I actually told my wife that I'd rather die than live this, this kind of a, sub-normal life. I don't want to do this. And if you're, especially when you're in public, you're sitting on this wheelchair and people are looking at your face and saying, "Yaar, ye to ladka theek hai. Why is he on a wheelchair?" And you get weird looks, in fact. I'm so surprised the way people in the airports or any public place were looking at me saying, there's this guy on the wheelchair. So I didn't want to be that. That was my lowest moment, right before we went to Chennai. So I don't know if I would want to do it differently, but there were major emotional turmoils during my journey.
So let's leave that behind for now. I read that you were working with some NGOs to, spread awareness about organ donation. So we'd love to know more about what you're doing.
Oh, great. So, of course, I'm the feeling of being, being grateful every morning when I wake up and I want to give back, because I'm just, so the first thing which comes into my mind is somebody actually gave up their life to give me. I'm alive because somebody gave their lives up.
Yes.
Which, somebody lost a son so that I could live. Right? That thought, a family lost a person so that I'm alive. It's very emotional, right? I'm alive because somebody passed away, because heart transplant is a cadaver donation. It's not a live donation. It's not like a kidney, or it's not like a liver. So this is, I don't want to call it a burden, but this is something, means a lot to me. So in fact, I want to give so much back that, if I have the opportunity, not even ability, if I can get the opportunity, I want to work with 20 NGOs to raise organ awareness. So right now, I work with an NGO in Delhi called Organ India, and they've appointed me as a brand ambassador for them, and they work very closely with a government agency, which is NATO. NATO is the agency which decides, this is the National Organ and Tissue Transplant, this thing. So they work very closely with the government, and I am working together with Organ India. And of course, my son is extremely active for organ donation awareness. He's done massive campaigns. He has a social media handle called Do, which is Donate Organs, and every day he's putting up some stuff. And Organ India is doing a lot of work. I mean, we have been on television a few times trying to create organ. So when I started Kanupriya, and I will only, because I'm working with Organ India. So 3 years ago when we started, people had no idea, like me, of what is organ donation 3 years ago, only 3 years ago. This is right before NDTV started their campaign, and Organ India and NDTV, we work together. That's why I've been on NDTV a few times because of their campaign. Before that, including me, after my transplant, I didn't know that pre-transplant. I didn't know what is organ donation. Frankly speaking, for me, an organ donation was one kidney. A brother has given or a mother has given a kidney. We never realized. We never knew that heart can also be donated. So now today, if I speak to anybody, and Organ India actually 6 months ago did a huge campaign with MTV also. There was on their social media on organ awareness. So now everybody knows about organ donation and how important it is. And so now people don't say, "Acha hota hai." Now they say, "Okay, where do I sign up?" Which in the last 3-4 years is a big deal. I'm telling you, 4 years ago, nobody knew anything. And now, in fact, Organ India is working with NATO and a few government agencies to make organ donation mandatory when you're an adult. Now, what countries like Spain do is that if you go and apply for a driver's license, the moment you get a driver's license, there is a form which you fill in, and in the form, you are already opted in by default to donate your organs. In fact,
Yeah.
you have to make an extra effort of opting out in case you don't want to donate your
Don't want to
organs.
be. Right, right.
So this is what this is what needs to be done. And I actually had to go to Chennai to get my
Right.
heart transplant, because in North India there were people did not know what organ donation was. Escorts started their first transplant 3 years ago, right? And Chennai was doing 100 transplants a year by then, organ
Yeah.
transplant. So it's
Yeah.
about the awareness, it's about the availability of the organs. Now Maharashtra has taken a big step. Maharashtra has
Yeah.
overtaken Tamil Nadu in terms of awareness, and the government is really helping.
Great. So, Karan, what is the one thing that you'd like to say to our listeners? Just one message on why they should support organ
Oh wow!
donation, and because we're
Oh
running
wow!
this campaign in Kolkata
I
for Dil Deke Dekho Ji.
I
So,
love. First of all, I love your campaign. Dil Deke Dekho in
thank you.
February. अरे देखो, सच्ची में दिल देके देखो, मुझे तो मिला हुआ है, मैं सच्ची जीता जागता एग्जाम्पल हूँ. So
Thank you.
what I love to tell people is that, especially young people who are business families, who are entrepreneurs, is your legacy, what you leave behind, is not the properties and not the bank balance that you should leave behind. You
Right.
should leave behind such a legacy that just not your. So if I go away today, my kids, my grandkids, and the second generation is the only one who's going to remember me. I don't think you remember your great grand. You may know them by name, but I don't think you remember them. Nobody does. But if
Right.
you can donate your organ and you can save lives, you can save between 6 to 8 lives by donating your organs. That's
True.
the legacy you should leave behind. That you have given life to 6 to 8 families, not just your own. पैसा तो आप कमा रहे हो. It's not in your hands. It's there. You're leaving your legacy behind, your inheritance. But what is your legacy? You should donate organs. Donating organs and saving so many families should be the legacy that you leave behind. जिसने मुझे अपना हार्ट दिया, मेरे तो भगवान है ना. He has given me life.
Right.
That boy is my God. He is my God. I mean, God has given me life. He has given me life. So he's the legacy I look forward to. This is what I'm going to be.
Right.
My legacy is not how well my kids are living. My legacy is going to be how many lives I have saved before I go away.
Wow.
This is the message I
Thank
want to give.
That's absolutely fantastic, Karan. Thank you so much, for sharing what life can be before and after a transplant, and it just goes beyond saying that miracles do exist. So thank
Yes,
you
they
so
do.
much.
Yes, they do. Absolutely, miracles exist. I'm telling you, there is a God. Miracles exist, and
Yes,
you have to manifest it.
absolutely. That reminds me of, it takes me back to the book called Secret, where you have a secret and it comes true.
I read The
Manifestation.
Secret last year, and
Okay,
you can't believe how well I resonated with it.
I'm
It's
sure.
brilliant.
I totally agree. So, but I've also learned today that, somewhere you need to train your mind to be stronger than your emotions, otherwise you just end up losing every time. So,
No,
I mean,
this is what I tell people. Sorry, I'll interrupt you here. Your
no, absolutely.
emotions
Thank you.
have
Yeah.
to complement your mind,
Yes.
right? They
You
have
said
to
you
work
put it so
together.
beautifully.
They
Yes.
have to work together. Your
Yes.
emotions are not
Not one
negative.
over the other.
Your passion comes from emotion. It doesn't come from your brain. You have to push your emotions. Your emotions
Right.
will drive your brain. ये गलत.
Right.
I keep telling people, do not negate your emotions. Be emotional. That's the only way you're going to be passionate.
Great. Thank you so much for correcting me there. I mean, it just totally
Sorry.
makes more sense now. No, no, really. It was really nice of you to say that. But thank you so much, Karan. We had a great time chatting with you, and thank you so much for taking out time again for us. And I'm really sorry about the previous session. It just
A pleasure,
snapped.
Kanupriya. Absolutely. And if anybody wants any information regarding this, please, you can uh, forward my number or my handle or whatever, Kanupriya. Please do not hesitate to forward my contact details.
Great. Then I'll get in touch with you again.
Absolutely. Great.
Thank
And
you
you
so
have to
much.
sing for us next time, I think.
Sing for you.
Yeah. I've seen a video of you singing.
Okay. Yeah, we did one for the Dekho Dekho Ji campaign again. All
Yeah,
of
yeah.
us members.
You sang well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure chatting with you, Karan. Thank you
Same
so
here.
much.
Same here, Kanupriya. Take care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye. Bye.